Welcome, everyone, to our August edition of Office Hours with TimesS. Uh, Joining me this month is our Manager of Customer Success, Joanna Strombaugh, and our Product Manager, Jason Kasugo. Between them, I don't know if anybody knows more about TimesS and scheduling at an MSP. So they are here for your questions. But today, we're going to cover first shareable URLs. Static URLs that you can share with people. You can put in your email signature. You can frame it in your website if you want to have a demo or a service, kind of like a triage sort of session, just permanently on your website. Those sort of applications where it's not going through the PSA, but you're just sending someone a URL. To get going on that, Joanna is going to show us just a little bit of the basics of how you have these URLs and a couple of use cases. And then we'll open it up for questions if anyone has any. So Joe, take us away.
Yeah. So I love the bringing up the URLs with people when I'm talking with them, because it is kind of outside of the standard of what people expect us to be able to do, because most know of the pod or the insight within the ticket, but we also have this additional functionality that is very flexible. And I like to say, the however creative your mind can get, that's how you can use it, right? So we're going to share some documents and then or reference some documents for you guys as well, so that those who are just watching the recording, you know which ones to go search for. But I'm going to walk you through where you can access these as well and how you can kind of leverage them. So Seth mentioned originally the shareable URL. We have a few different types of URLs. The primary ones are the shareable URL, which is a URL that is able to be used outside of your PSA. So you can embed it on a web page. You can use it in a direct email, and it is set up to create a ticket on your board. We can also set it up to use either an activity or a to-do, something of that sort, where it's not tied to a ticket, but it's still going to your PSA. We can also set it up to where if you, the user, have your primary calendar set as Office 365, we can have it right to Office 365. So there's a lot of flexibility there, and it allows you to expand beyond the support or help desk original thought process, right? So I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to take a look at TimesS. Let's see if I can find the right one here. Okay, so we're looking at TimesS here.
Yep.
Good. Fantastic. So when we go to appointment types, we're going to come into this 30-minute sales call. And I like this one because I can touch on a little best practice as well. So one of my best practices is not to put the duration in the external name of an appointment type. And I'll show you why in my example. So when we come into our appointment type, you can see we have two URLs here. When you first create an appointment type, you're only going to see this URL-based scheduling URL. This one is fantastic to use inside automated emails, workflow emails in your PSA. So let's say your customer submits a ticket and you have an automated email response that goes out. It says, hey, you've created your ticket. Here's your ticket number. We'll get back to you soon, or whatever you might put in there. You can actually use this URL-based scheduling URL inside of that automated ticket. And this SR number token or ticket number token at the end of it will tie it back to the ticket that was created by your customer. So it's a great one to use. If you're going to do it, I do recommend using it with a team or team scheduling, which is like auto dispatching. That way, they're not all going to one person. It can distribute throughout maybe your tier 1 team or a triage resources.
That's also what allows us to work with like an integration with Cloud Radial as well, and like other portals, right? So that
Yes,
way triage a ticket, they can just automatically get it all done in one step.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Um, the shareable URL is the one we were talking about at the beginning of our session, where it's more flexible. You can use it outside of the PSA. This has to be set up inside of your appointment type. So when you come down to the shareable URLs, you'll see there's three options here. If this appointment type is set up to work with either activities or to-dos, this option here where you do not need to create a ticket becomes available. And then it won't tie directly to a ticket, but like I said, an activity or 365, something like that. There is contact handling here. So a concern that comes up, especially if maybe this is being used in a signature block for a help desk resource, is that we don't want anyone being able to just schedule a technical resource, right? We want to keep that narrowed down to people who are actually customers or who are already in our system. And that's how we accomplish this, is with these settings here. So you can actually reject an appointment if the contact is not already in your PSA. The one I usually recommend is using the email domain. That way, if they have maybe a new user who isn't specifically in ConnectWise, but you're trying to set up meetings for them, they can still schedule an appointment with you for that setup, even though maybe their email isn't exactly in your PSA. We also have the summaries here. So you can have the customers submit what the session is about. And we actually can change the question of this, right? So you can, instead of saying, what's your issue? You can say, you know, how can we help you today? Or what would you like to discuss, right? Or you can set a stagnant field. So you can say, okay, we're doing a special project for this update. We want all of the tickets to come in with the same title or the same summary. You would use this specific value here, okay? So when we have this URLs, we're able to take and choose our resource that we want to populate within the URL here, okay? So this is just a generator. Sometimes it confuses people and they think that it is applying the settings of this appointment type for these users. That's not how it works. This is just generating the proper slug inside of the URL so that you can copy it and use it elsewhere. Now you saw here that I was able to select multiple resources. We call this panel scheduling. And so you can actually have a URL that works with multiple people. And this allows you to do cross team collaboration, right? So you could have an account manager who is pulling in a technical resource on a call. So they don't have any shared availability. But let's go back here. This shareable URL functionality, we expanded it into our team and personal pages. So we're going to explore that now. When we go to users and we go to configure for a specific user, we have these personal pages down here at the bottom. Okay. This is a stagnant link that is specific to this user. Okay. And you get to toggle on the different appointment types that work for this user. So if you have a sales resource, you would set up the sales calls. If it's a technical resource, you might only set up maybe a triage call or a discovery call or something of that sort. Then this URL can then be used inside their signature blocks. It can be directly sent to somebody, but it gives options to the end user, your customer. I have here, go ahead, Seth, I see you have a question.
No, I was actually saying kind of my own experience. Actually, long before TimeZest existed with another scheduling app. What we did at Model MSP was we put a couple things on there
Hmm.
that weren't necessarily the main appointments that we always got, but were kind of suggestive. And then one of our most successful ones was a Wi-Fi audit.
Oh,
People would schedule with us because they knew us of we were handling their machines, we were handling their 365, but they would see, oh, you guys, even though it's on our website, even though we tell them every single QBR, right? Their ears are closed at that point. It's like a great way of showing evidence to people you do the thing without having to directly pitch it to them. So just one of those kind of added benefits to having a personal scheduling page that I found.
absolutely. Yeah. And we have this, well, I'll show you in a minute for Teams as well. So this one is specific to Ben. And you can see here that we have this little description section, which is set up inside the appointment type. So it's specifically to this type of meeting. And you can see here in the 30-minute sales, that little best practice that I mentioned about not including the duration in the external name is because it creates a duplication here. And then when you're scheduling from the ticket, we actually have a change the duration on the fly. And so it can cause some confusion. So there's just a little extra tidbit there. But when you have the shareable URLs set up for these appointment types, you can easily present options and it will take them straight to that scheduling page as normal, right?
We did get a quick question from
Yep.
Josh in the chat. Sue, did you see that one?
I did. I was gonna post that here to talk about it.
Yeah.
Two.
The question was, can you have an appointment type schedule using 365 even if the user is set to schedule using their PSA?
Yes and no. So, I mean, we can, because we can attach a calendar invite, but it can get a little messy. So if you have this sync maybe between ConnectWise and Autotask or your PSA and, or not Autotask, your PSA and Outlook, it can create duplicate entries, right? So we can attach a calendar invite, but to your confirmation email that the tech would receive, but it can cause some messiness, but it is doable. So, and that's controlled within the individual appointment types. Okay.
Okay.
Hope that answers that question. So the other side of personal pages is we actually did the very same thing for Teams. So Teams again is like auto dispatching, right? So when we come in here, we have a team page. And so you can say, okay, for our tier 1 team, we're going to display, these options. Maybe you do a triage call or a password reset, or like Seth was saying, something like, a Wi-Fi, review or things like that, where it would be you're not trying to have them have selections of like an on-site maybe, right? Where you want maybe a little more oversight or control of who's scheduling that at what times, but things that your team can address if somebody goes to your web page, right? So this can be embedded on your web page, and then they can submit and schedule a ticket all at the same time. So I think that is about it for shareable URLs, URL-based scheduling, and then the personal and team pages. I definitely recommend testing these out and playing around with them. Some other, really for the shareable URLs, one customer submission we did kind of a request for customers to submit use case ideas. And one that's been kind of a fan favorite when I talk to people is using the shareable URL and turning it into a QR code and putting that on your hardware packing slips, right? So you're shipping out hardware, it has a QR code with a piece of paper, and your customer just scans it and schedules their hardware setup call right there from that. I
Yeah.
personally have a QR code sticker inside my notebook that I take to conferences. So when I'm talking to customers, they can take out their phone and scan it and schedule a call with me. And something that's really cool about these personal pages is you can create an appointment type that's specific for that maybe conference or event you're going to. So I had one for IT Nation. And then after, a month, I just toggled it off. And then it was no longer visible. But when my customers were meeting with me, they could quickly say, oh, that's an IT Nation conversation follow-up call, right? And schedule it right then and there. So it's really flexible. Even if you don't have a large team, you can have a team consisting of 1 or 2 people. It's okay. It gives you a stagnant link that can grow with your business. So I hope those help. Jason, Seth, anything to add in there?
Yeah, we do it on our own website. So if you want to schedule a demo of TimeZest, right? We use just one of these URLs. We frame it into a website, which is super easy to do. Pretty, if you're on WordPress or pretty much any CMS, really easy to frame this sort of thing in. Even if it's just like an introductory call or kind of doing an on-site evaluation, that sort of thing, can be really useful. But I really like the scheduling the QR code. When you bench a server, right, the last thing you want to do is let the client get their grubby paws on it with like no instruction on what to do with it. I've definitely ruined a dozen hours of work before by letting that happen. And projects too, like when you're doing, having the ability to in sort of the outset of a project say, look, we're gonna be on site for this week, right? We're gonna have 2 techs on site. We're deploying all of your workstations, and being able to just have a page, say, go to this QR code, go to this URL, go ahead and get scheduled now, and setting up those parameters as an appointment type. That can really speed up those onerous, you got to get dozens of tasks done at a client, and you get dozens of meetings done. As this is where we really shine and start to save you hundreds of hours on a project.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something else I noticed too, it doesn't really happen in conversation a whole lot because we're really focused on the service side of things. What about on the finance and billing, right? So there's that scenario. If there's any case that your customers, your clients need to talk to somebody about billing, anything like that, right? It's definitely helpful for those finance folks within your team to be able to schedule some time as well. They also experience that back and forth situation where we're trying to find some time to be able to talk about this bill that just got sent to us. How do we do that? Just by going in and sending out that link. It's the same thing, embedding in that shareable URL within the finance person's email signature or just somewhere else within the website or any other location for your clients to be able to see and schedule time with them.
It's really
Same
important
with HR.
Yeah,
interviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had customers, say they're using shareable URLs to schedule new hire interviews and things like that. So, and you can have it create a ticket on, if you have a board for HR, you can do that. Otherwise, you can have it just go on your Outlook calendar or event. So,
yeah, and then QBRs, we all know QBRs, they're just like super easy to schedule, right? Like, you send out, they just jump at the opportunity to have a QBR with you, right? But oftentimes, like, we're just dealing with like really busy people. They're running a business themselves, right? So when you can offer them ability to just one step get the thing done, you're respecting their time. And if it's easier to schedule, it's more likely the appointment to happen. No, not saying you'll get all your QBRs scheduled by any means, right? But making it easier is definitely a good way to improve the chances that the thing gets scheduled in the first place.
Absolutely. Yeah. Is there any questions or anything else I can show you guys today? It does not have to be related to URLs, but it's a great opportunity for these office hours for, we've got people who are working in TimeZest all day, every day. So we're happy to share and communicate anything. Yeah.
And we'll be posting, this video and what we do every month to YouTube shortly after. So you can certainly, join us on YouTube regularly, watch it there. But if you ever have any live questions, we'll be doing this every month. Certainly, anytime you want to reach out to help@timezest.com, please do so. You won't always have sort of a counsel to ask the questions too, would help at. But we always want to hear those questions. But this is what we're going to leave the door open here every month to have this sort of session where you can come and ask questions. I think we got one more in the chat, perhaps.
Yeah, there was another that
Yeah.
just came on chat.
Josh, I see that. I understand the mindset of like being able to like, yeah, I hear you. So I think we have a feature request on being able to hide, appointment types or teams or things like that. It's out
And
there.
just to back up, just so
Yeah.
people, the question was, I was not aware of the team page. And Josh, you're not alone. When I'm on the road, the number of people that don't know about team and personal pages, it just blows my mind. It makes me want to pull my hair out. And I have ideas to use it more, but the issue I would make is I would make teams that I would not show in the PSA pod because it could fill up the drop down. So it would be nice if you could hide teams and appointment types.
Yep.
No,
I agree with you, and I'm glad to see that you said you have probably voted on that feature request. That's fantastic. Yeah, no, it would be good. I do, especially for appointment types, where you might have duplicate phone calls, right? But one is set up to support a more sales or more administrative situation, and one is set up to support your help desk. I do recommend leveraging the internal note and creating a filter of sorts by going like help desk, colon phone call, right? Or sales colon phone call. That way, if the features are so different and they're so specific to those different teams, that can kind of help with the appointment types. I know it doesn't hide it, but it's a little workaround that I've been recommending for a couple of years now. So try that for the appointment types to just kind of help those different teams be able to see the ones that they need in the drop down a little easier. So
yeah, I know if I ever name an MSP solution based on how everybody does all like the vendor sponsorships at shows, it's going to be something like Aardvark or AAA MSP solutions. Because I tell you what, it's always some sort of alphabetization. So yeah, I've seen people put double A in front of important things on lists like that, or triple Z or something like that on the things that maybe are superfluous to start. So yeah, alphabet can be your friend on those things.
Any other questions or anything?
I think that's it.
Okay.
We'll office hours will be open again next month. Again, we'll get this up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/timezest. We'll have it up there shortly. We'll mail people that did register for this, so we'll get it out to you. And very much appreciate everybody joining us today. Joe, Jason, always a pleasure.